right? There are a lot of men with a whole lot of talent that's not doing anything because you are going to work every day and taking care of all the bills. Don't be his soft place to fall. Don't be his backup plan. Don't be his security blanket, because as soon as you start out as being that soft place for him to fall, then he's going to fall into his soft girl era. The men become the trad wife.
I don't know why I never put it together before now that men are the trad wife. They are in their soft life era or whatever. I love her. I'm gonna include a link to her video. She also made hospice wife popular. Sometimes you just need language to put to these things that are so frustrating, and that's what this is. Men are being trad wives. Okay, so I have so much to say on this, and I actually also want to show an article that backs all this up. So one of the things, and this is I get from my mutual Bourbon Bougie, you know, the dust is global. I love that saying, because the thing is that maybe it's because I was raised by a single mom or whatever. I don't know. Like in my life, most of the women that I know have been the hard workers in their relationships. So I can't even relate to women who are like stay-at-home moms and who don't earn any income whatsoever. I mean, I have some of those friends, but like all of my closest friends in my life and within my own family, the women have always made the money. You know, I mean, as a single mom, you have to. But even, you know, even my stepmom made the most money. She's brilliant. So that is what I'm used to. So because of that, I would hear about like financial abuse and stuff. The way they always framed it was that it was, you know, rich men who were like controlling all the money, or the, you know, whatever. The men who had the job, they control all the money. And that absolutely exists and is a thing. But in my personal experience with financial abuse, and also most of the women I know, it is the men, it's these hobo-sexual, gold-digging men who don't work, or, you know, or who work but like spend all the money and don't work as hard as the women that they're married to or dating. And it seems like this is so common, is that it seems like at this point, I don't know the statistics, but every woman that I know, with the exception of a few, it works at least part-time, if not full-time, right? And especially in the United States, because they know if they leave the workforce, even if they can leave the workforce, and that they'll never be able to go back, right? And yet at the same time in the United States, because they don't provide any assistance to mothers, and childcare is so expensive, a lot of women are forced out of the workforce because of, you know, having to be childcare, or, you know, childcare is more expensive than them actually earning an income. So there's that whole element to it too, which is different than, say, France, where, you know, they have way more childcare. Kids start school at 3 years old instead of like 6, all kinds of stuff. And they, you know, subsidize babysitters and all this stuff, right? Most countries in the world support mothers more than the United States. Just saying. But this whole like I swear to God, like men are just living their trad life. Like most men, again, in my experience, it's the women are working, but then they're doing everything too. And the men are just like, you know, like anytime I was on Tinder and they had like entrepreneur as their job, I was like, nope, because I learned really quick what that is. It's like, I don't know, I'll work when I feel like it. I'll figure out this grand thing, and then literally never take the actions to build that grand thing. Literally just find a woman who has a solid, stable income that they can exploit while they find themselves, right? And they never find themselves. And like Candace was talking about earlier, is that a lot of times it's the women who have the stable jobs and the men who are just like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to, you know, do this and then do this, but there's like no stability to it. There's no security to it. And they can just kind of choose if they're going to work or not. But if there's one thing we know about men, that one, they are not disciplined, because their life has been so easy compared to women that they don't have to be disciplined, right? And that men are inherently lazy, not inherently, but they're lazy because the system has set them up to be lazy, where they feel so entitled to things. Like even men who aren't lazy, I promise you, most of them are lazy in their home in terms of like, well, just let their wife do everything, especially if they have children. right? So even the hardest working man who will climb Everest because he has such a strong work ethic, still lazy when it comes to being a partner. I think since, being raised by a single mom, among other people who had divorced parents, and so they were being raised by their single mom, and then going into the outdoor industry, which is full of hobosexual Peter Pan men who never want to grow up. And guess how they get to live that life? It's always a girlfriend. It's always a girlfriend. That's how they afford that lifestyle. They have a girlfriend, right? And they move in with them. And, if you've ever lived in a ski town or anything like this, I'm sure, and you're a woman, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. You've probably been through it yourself, or one or all your friends have dealt with men like this. The women usually have degrees. They have, some of them have masters, doctorates, and they're living in ski towns, but they're working online, or they're graphic designers, or they're doing something, and they're dating or married to men who, it is, if they don't have a criminal record and they have maybe a car, they are like a golden boy. You know what I mean? Because so many of these men have criminal records, are uneducated, and not always due to lack of resources, just don't want to. They just want to ski. A lot of them don't have homes, don't even have, not even rental homes, or if they do, they're just terrible. They don't have anything. They really count I swear, I can't tell you how, I know one woman, and I was like, how did you guys meet? She's like, yeah, he got injured or something. He was camping out on Taos Valley Ski Road or whatever. And then, he slept on my couch because we went climbing one day, and then he stayed there for 3 months, and then we just started dating. That is the origin story. That's the meet cute of so many women in the outdoor industry. And a lot of, again, it's not, a lot of these women, it is not lack of resources. It is not lack of privilege. They come from upper middle, even really rich lifestyle. Maybe their parents cut them off because they're like, bro, I paid for you to go to college and you're a bum. I'm cutting you off. So what do? They find a woman. It's a running joke in community with all these Peter Pan. I'm telling you, most men are Peter Pans. Right? Hobosexual Peter Pans. And even the ones who have good jobs are still Peter Pans because they'll find that one hobby that makes them leave the home all the time and leave her with all the care to do. Yeah, they'll find a hobby that is very time consuming, very expensive, that takes them away so they can do their Peter Pan life while she stays at home and sews or does something at home, right? Because she can't leave the house because who's going to take care of the kids? So even ones who have good jobs and all that stuff, still they're Peter Pans. They're all on the Peter Pan spectrum, I swear to God. And essentially they are trad wives. They are trad wives. And they want us to be trad wives, right? They really don't. What Candace was talking about is stop lending men money. Don't lend your boyfriends money. They will never pay you back. No man that I've ever lent money to ever paid me back. And they will always have an excuse as to why they can't pay for this, why they can't pay for that. Always right around the first of the month. That hobo that ended up being abusive and almost taking my life, he didn't have a bank account. Now, I didn't know at the time that part of it is because he didn't have a driver's license and a social security card because he didn't want to be found, back payment on child support, a criminal record. There's no telling what this man was wanted for, right? So he couldn't cash his own check. So Melanie, just empathetic. I tried to get him a driver's license. It never worked out. I am sure he actively sabotaged that because he doesn't want them to find him. So guess who would sign, pay to the order of that. I would deposit them in my account and give him cash. And I paid for all of our travel. And I was a waitress at a pizza place in Taos, New Mexico, one of the poorest counties in the country, right? All my money depended on rich people coming through town and ordering a pizza and hopefully giving me a tip. And yet I'm funding this little hobo's lifestyle too. I remember we went to a Renaissance festival that I paid for, and he wanted to buy a $200 kilt because he's Irish. No, he's not. I was like, how can you buy a kilt when you owe me all this money for whatever? And he threw a fit, threw a jar across the, that was the first night things got violent because I called him out on it. He was so mad that he couldn't have his little kilt. He literally was so enraged that he couldn't have this kilt because I would not give him the cash that I had taken out of, that I had received from his check that he had to sign over to me, because no one will cash a check to a man without an ID, right? And that was when I was like, oh my God, that's when I realized I'm in trouble. And then he had a back injury. Like, it all just went so downhill from then because, he used his injury. He was never injured. I am convinced now that there was no back problem. He literally leveraged that for my empathy and used his back, despite all the remedies that I got for him. Holistic remedies, all these creams, it was sat in the ER with him. They're like, we don't know. No one can figure it out. It's because he was lying. And it was a way for him to not have to pay for things, and it justified all of his bad moods. And he'd have, oh my God. But really what it was is he's a trad wife. He paid no rent. He paid for nothing. He lived in my place. He moved in while I was on vacation and never left. And then anytime he had money that he wasn't spending on booze and cigarettes and his medicine, that at the end I started funding that too, because when he wasn't high, he was a complete douche. I mean, he was a douche anyway. But at a certain point, I was like, yeah, where's your medicine? Make sure you go get a bag. Whenever he had any cash, any leftover money from all of his vices, he would buy cowboy boots. He was like a skater when I met him. I was like, wait, when did you turn into a cowboy? And then he bought a big black cowboy hat. And I was like, oh my God, I don't want to be with a cowboy. I grew up in Nashville. I hate country music. Plus, if you're a cowboy, I assume you're racist too. If you're a white cowboy, at least. And come to find out he was. Didn't know that. Then I was like, oh my God, what is this? But he just spent money on toys. That's financial abuse. And he's living this trad wife life, not paying for literally anything. And it took me years to understand that is financial abuse, right? And he always had some crisis so that he couldn't help out. But those crises were very well timed. So, even if they're not abusive, stop paying their bills. They will never pay you back. And here's the thing is, like, as much as they want you to enable them, they don't feel good about it. They don't feel good about it. They know they're exploiting you. They know they're being lazy. And then that is like anytime that I have gotten away with like not appreciating somebody, I actually felt like crap too. Anyway, believe their excuses. Don't pay for anything anymore. And now I'm going to show you that even like middle and upper middle class families, those women are living with hobos too. Peter Pan's hobo-sexual gold diggers. Let's get into it. This came out in the New York Times over a year ago, and I think about it at least once a week. Dads still get extra leisure time. Moms are still subsidizing it. Bingo! There's a lot in this article. I'm going to show you a couple of I'm going to go through this quick. There's a whole nother article. Even when women make more money than their husbands, they're doing more childcare and housework. That sentence alone should be enraging, right? It talks about how, like, no matter what this situation, the men never pick up the slack. There's only one type where they do. But all the other ones, even in true egalitarian marriages where both spouses earn roughly the same amount of money, and in marriages where the wife is the primary earner, that's what's happening. The only marriage type where husbands devote more time to caregiving than their wives is the ones in which the wife is the sole breadwinner. Even in those marriages, wives and husbands spend roughly the same amount of time per week in household chores. So even when men are the primary caregivers, they're at home taking care of the kids, the woman is still doing the exact same amount of housework as him. Lazy, lazy, lazy. Men are lazy. You'll never convince me of anything else. It goes on to talk about the second shift. We know what that is now, right? It's the women basically have two jobs. When they get paid for it, when they don't. It talks about how a lot of times a woman who seems threatening to her husband because she earns more than he does will engage in larger share of production activity, particularly household chores. The one way to read this is that so-called women's work isn't just doing the household chores, but also doing them in such a way that the man feels better about himself. Everything to protect the man's ego. Fork his ego. And I've talked about this before. I'm going to go to a whole nother thing in another video. But when they, even in countries like Sweden and, European countries where they, help the parents out, this crap still happens. It's not as bad, but it's still a huge problem. A 2018 study of Swedish couples looked at what happened when fathers got, starting in 1995, an added month of paid parental leave that was earmarked specifically for them, for fathers. If they didn't use it, it couldn't be transferred to mothers. While the reform led to more men to take paid leave, it didn't affect the long-term division of household work. Of course it didn't. They're like, I'm staying here to take care of the baby. I'm not doing this crap that women are supposed to do. I was promised that women would just cook and clean and make my life easier, and I'm not going to do it. And guess what? It led to more couples breaking up because women are like, what the hell? Even when you give the opportunity to make my life easier, you still make it harder. You suck. Goodbye. So look at this. Women are, in effect, doing about an extra month of unpaid labor a year, while men get an extra month of leisure. Think about that. A month of extra, 1/12 of your time. 30 or 31 days, except February 29 on a leap year. That means men are getting 31 days of vacation a year because of you. And then let's go into this. Because what most men don't realize is that they are not good dads. They're good dads by comparison, but they're actually trad wives. That's what they are. They go out, they do a little work, they come home and do what they want. But they're a good dad because they didn't beat her. They're a good dad because they didn't beat the kids. They're a good dad because they actually don't hate their kids, right? They're a good dad because they will be seen in public with children. Maybe they'll wear a little baby Bjorn and carry them around. Maybe they'll push the stroller. Maybe feed them every once in a while. That's a good dad. No, it's not. First of all, I don't believe in good or bad. That's too black and white. But men love to be called good dads because that means that they don't have to do anything. They're good literally because they didn't leave their wife and start a whole new family and then abandon that one or cheat on her. Like, that makes them good. Fuck off. Okay, so look at this. When they interviewed a bunch of couples, so inequality makes everyone feel bad. Studies have found that people who feel they're getting away with something experience fear and self-reproach, right? You know deep down you're getting away with something. You're afraid of being called on that something. And so that's why men are so sensitive. People who feel exploited are angry and resentful. And yet, here's the important part. Men are more comfortable than women with the first scenario and less tolerant than women of finding themselves with the short end of the stick. So they're more comfortable being in that place of like, I hope she doesn't know. I hope she doesn't call me on this, right? That place of anxiety and fear of getting caught. They're way more comfortable with that. But God forbid they are the one who feels exploited. Not fair. Like, they're not comfortable with that. Whereas women are just used to that. We're just so used to being exploited. We're like, well, what's a little bit more? So men are in denial about it. Their resistance communicates a feeling of entitlement to women's labor. Men resist because it's in their interest to do so. Period. Even though it makes them feel bad, even though they live in fear and anxiety, they resist changing because it means they're going to have to do more. And like I said, men are so lazy. They'd rather just not do anything, which means they get to be lazy. And even if it means they're feeling bad about themselves, they don't have to do stuff. They're so lazy. And they call us, God, everything they say is projecting, I swear to God. By passively refusing to take an equal role, men are reinforcing a separation of spheres that underpins masculine ideas and perpetuates a gender order privileging men over women. Like, these men will have like feminist, and they're all about their daughter's liberation. They don't want their daughter to settle for what their wife will. In doing that to their own wife, all they're doing is role modeling for their daughter the kind of man their daughter should settle for, which is a piece of crap like them. One guy said, the expectation among my male friends is still that they will have the life they had before kids. No woman ever thinks that, but all men seem to think that. And look at him. My dad has never cooked a meal. I have strayed from that. A good man? What? Well, he goes on to say, but subconsciously, the thing that makes you motivationally step up and do something when you're not being asked, he trailed off and then said, I have justifications. It's a cop-out. They basically, okay, so this is some really great reporting. I know that the New York Times has ruined their reputation lately, especially in their coverage of Palestine and all like, oh my God. Anyway, however, there are still some really great reporting that does come out of this publication. And this is literally one of the best reported stories I've ever written, because this person talked to partners, woman and a man who had kids, but they talked to him separately, and the stuff the men admitted out loud. So then they even just were like, okay, let's just think of this. Let's take love and the fact that y'all are married and you claim to love her out of the equation. Let's just look at work, because this is how men behave at work. Every woman who has worked with men knows that this is how it is. Take love out of the equation and focus on the workplace. And it's clear how this plays out. Studies have shown that male employees sit back while their female co-workers perform the tasks that don't lead to promotion. Getting coffee, taking notes, doing all the emotional labor, doing all like the invisible stuff, but women are producers. Women are producers. Like literally go to Hollywood, look at the film industry. Christopher Nolan, without his producer wife, Emma Thompson, that's why she's the one who's accepting all the awards and all. That's why she gets thanked by all the stars in those movies, because they know, they watch it on set. Without that woman, he would be nothing. He gets all the credit for being this genius director. But without her, he wouldn't do anything. He would be worthless. So women are the ones who are behind the scenes doing all the producing, and the men in general are the stars. The actors, the directors, that they get to take credit for this whole thing that women produced usually. And by that, the women are the production managers of their home. But he's the breadwinner. No, he's not. He would be nothing without her labor. So they said in studies in co-ed groups, women are 50% more likely than men to volunteer to take on work that no one else wants to. This starts in school. Every woman knows you've been in a group project. It's the women who do all the work. The men will be like, well, they'll just sit there and do nothing. That's why I hate group projects, because it's usually the more marginalized you are, the more screwed you get, right? It's like white people always get more credit than we should. Men always get more credit, it's like the people with more at stake end up doing more. The whole group gets credit, especially the ones who did nothing. But in all male groups, the men volunteer just as right. So if you have a group of men, they'll volunteer. But if there's a woman there, they're gonna default to her. And so that is literally plays out in marriages all over, especially the United States, where there's no social help. But even in, Sweden, the men are doing it. Women do the work because they're expected to. The men come into the room, they see women, they know how we play these games, right? Like most men won't admit, oh, there's a woman, I'll make her get the coffee and take all the notes for this meeting. They may not actively catch themselves thinking that. They don't need to, because it's just in them. Hey, can you do this? Start saying no. Why don't you do it? Of course, there's always a consequence for that, so whatever. It's always contextual. It says, we played the same games at home. This person interviewed several couples separately and found the women were often angry, while the men didn't seem to realize there was a problem. They do know there's a problem, but they are in deep denial about it. So they're like, I don't get it. And these are the men who, when their wives ask for a divorce, are like, why didn't you tell me? It came out of nowhere. Even though she was like, I feel alone. I feel exploited. I'm angry. Will you please do this? I'm tired of delegating. I'm tired of writing a to-do list. Overwhelm. And they're like, what? Play games. Go, disappear to golf, climbing. Okay, so I'm getting too worked up, y'all. So there's 3 explanations that the couples offered for this labor imbalance. The first was that women take over activities like bedtime, homework, laundry, because the men perform these tasks inadequately. But this isn't maternal gatekeeping. I'm not saying that women don't do this. Yes, sometimes women want things done a particular way, right? But we know now that the weaponized incompetence is a lot of times, it's not that men have a different way of doing it. It's that they're so lazy, they won't actually do it well. And they know that it drives women crazy. So then they're like, cool, I'll do it bad. I told y'all before, my dad literally admitted that he made the bed bad so he didn't have to do it. Even though he also, in the same breath, was like, yeah, I used to have to bounce a quarter off the bed when I was in the Navy. He knows how to make beds better than anyone I know. I don't know how to make a bed where I can bounce a quarter off of it. My dad did, but he never had to make the bed because he pretended like he didn't know how by doing it bad. We know this game now. Yes, sometimes women won't let go of chores, but most of the time it's because the men are doing them bad on purpose. And yet they convinced us for a while that it's that we just have such ridiculously high standards and are control freak. Sure, brah. This theory that men want to help, that women disparage their capabilities and push them out, BS. So this interview, it's important to me that my sons are not falling asleep in class and then they're not late for school. My husband does not share these priorities because, he doesn't care. He's like, let them sleep in class. Let them fail. I don't care. I don't even like them. I don't even know their eye color. So she does the bedtime because if she didn't, these kids wouldn't go to bed on time, apparently. Like, look at this. The man even admits, I just don't think that these things are worth attending to. A certain percentage of parental involvement that my wife does, I would see as valuable, but unnecessary. This good dad just admitted that his kids sleep and education doesn't really seem necessary. Like, come on, relax, you control freak wifey. Some men blamed their wives' personalities. Shocker. One San Diego dad said his wife did more because she's so uptight. She wakes up on Saturday morning and has a list. A list. Can you believe the audacity of this woman? I don't keep lists. Well, why do you think that is? You don't need to. She has the list. Not having a list is such a privilege, and men will be like, you have this list, like you're such a control uptight freak. This man hates his wife. He does not see her as human. I hope she divorced him. Any man who would say this stuff out loud, uptight, is a man who is so far gone, I don't believe he is willing to change enough to save this marriage. He says, I think there's a belief that if she's not going to do it, then it won't get done. I can't believe she thinks that. His wife agreed that this was true, but emphasized that her belief was based on experience. Whoa, look at that. It's not that she just hates you and is just making this up. You literally don't do the stuff on the list. She says, we fell into this easy pattern where he learned to be oblivious. Oopsie doopsie, I forgot. And I learned to resent him. Look at this other man. Oh my God, I hate these dads. I hate these men. Look at this. A father in Orland confirmed that his wife takes on more, but he said it has to do with her personality. Another uptight bird. She always has to stay busy. No matter what day of the week it is, she needs to be engaged and do something. What do you think that is? Because there's so much on her list, you jerk. She doesn't have free time. Again, I'm telling you, when you start to see time as value, you'll start to understand all these men are financially abusing you. Many mothers told me they tried to change this and had aired their grievances with their partners only to watch as nothing changed. A mother in Queens spent 3 years trying to get her husband to do more before coming to terms with the fact that maybe it was just never going to happen. And that's exactly what they want you to do. Give up. He notices the unfairness, but he just accepts it as something we have a disagreement about. He notices the unfairness. He notices he's exploiting you and has accepted that they're just going to disagree about that. Oh my God. This is so upsetting. He notices and accepts they're going to disagree about him exploiting her. Well, she doesn't agree with it. That's her problem. This man hates her! So then it goes on to talk about how women forgo leisure time. And again, I can't stress how much men financially abuse you by not allowing you to have leisure time. They keep you busy with all this stuff. Women who view their household's responsibilities as unjust are more likely to suffer depression than those who do not. Also, these are the very women who are going to die of autoimmune diseases because these men are going to kill you through your nervous system. When their children are young, employed women, but not men, the ones who are working outside the home and in the home too, take a hit to their health as well as their earnings, and the latter never recover. These men who will let you do the second shift are screwing your career. Even working women outside the home, because women in the home are working, their careers never recover from men exploiting them. Childcare imbalances also tank relationship happiness, especially in early years of parenthood. So that's what cracks me up. Not only do these men not care that their wives are not doing okay, and that their careers are taking a hit, and that they're depressed, and that their overall health is taking a hit. The actual the happiness of their relationship with these men are in, so it affects them, the happiness of their relationship, especially in the early years of parenthood. Even that doesn't get them to get off their lazy butt and do something. I swear to God, men are so lazy. They literally are the OG trad wife. They have been in their soft girl era for forever. No more. Division of labor in the home is one of the most important gender equity issues of our time. Oh my God, this is gonna depress y'all. Okay, I'm sorry. Yet at the current rate of change, Men Care, a group that promotes equal involvement in caregiving, estimates that it will be about 75 more years before men worldwide assume half of the unpaid work that domesticity requires. 75 years. We will all be dead. I mean, the planet probably won't be here anymore either. I mean, really, because men are also running that and they're so lazy. They won't do anything about that because it feels a lot better to exploit, dominate things, women, Mother Nature. That's just what they do. And they're the great leaders, okay. If anything's going to change, men have to stop resisting. Gendered parenting is kept alive by the unacknowledged power bestowed upon men in a world that values their needs, their comfort, their desires more than women. It's up to fathers to cop to this rather than cop out. Okay, sure. Yeah, okay. Wouldn't that be nice? I would love to see that. But do you really think that's going to happen? Do you think men are going to do that? Men will not change unless they have no other option. Die alone or stop being lazy, right? And this is why, I don't agree with the ending there. I don't agree with that. Men are not going to change until we stop giving them our labor. Stop enabling this. They will not change on their own. Why would they? White people, literally, white people we are not resistant. I'm sorry, we are so resistant to change. A civil war was fought because white people are like, but I want my free labor. I'm sorry, but we can't just wait for men to change. I'm not waiting 75 years. Because that gives me no hope. Just waiting for men to change. That gives me no hope. Why would we have hope? But here is the hope in this. It doesn't take that many women to say, no more. I'm not dating you. I'm not marrying you. I'm not birthing your children. I'm doing nothing for you. Now, of course, it's really hard to unlearn this. This is why decentering men, don't even date men if you are not at a certain level of decentering men, right? I'm not saying don't date. I'm not saying don't marry. I'm saying from the beginning, refuse to settle for this kind of crap because they do this early on. Of course, they trick us and they do all this stuff. And then, men, I swear, 6 months in, all that effort they put in just disappears with a lot of these men. As soon as you see that red flag, done. I'm not saying men have to be perfect. No way. I was not perfect. My husband was not perfect. We have both learned so much and grown so much. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying it's this idea of exploitation. This entitlement. If we stop just excusing it, giving them the benefit of the doubt, being like, oh, they probably don't realize that they're exploiting me. Well, maybe they don't realize it, but that doesn't mean you let them, right? And this is not, I know there's women trapped in these marriages and these relationships. There's women who have to depend on men. There's so much nuance to this. Please don't say that, assume that this is across the board solution. But what I am saying is one of the most empowering things for me to do, because I used to be I let men walk all over me. I just paid for things. I did too much. Stop doing so much. Stop making excuses for them. Stop just pouring into them before they have poured a ton into you. Pour nothing. You get nothing. because we give so much out of the gate. We have so much to lose in marriages, and especially when you're parenting with these men. So I'm not waiting. I'm not waiting 75 years. No, right? I can't change what men are going to do or not do, more importantly, but I can change what I do. I can change what I do. Certain things I'd have to do anyway, right? Like, obviously, there's nuance to this, right? Like, there's nuance to this, but everything that I have my power to stop doing, you know what I mean? Got to stop doing it. I've caught myself doing too much stuff. Every day I'm like, oh my God, why am I doing this? Right? Whether it's for a male friend or like whatever. It's so in me. So I have to unpack all this stuff too. But we're not waiting for men to change. They will not be changed until they are forced to choose between dying alone, miserable, or growing the fork up and stop being so lazy. No more Peter Pans. Wendy was exploited. If you go back and read that, Wendy's the worst character. Wendy's the worst character. That Peter Pan is such a asshole. And don't be a Wendy. Do not be a Wendy. Do not be a Belle. Mary's a beast. You hope he changes. He's still a beast. And he's still going to throw furniture at you. He's a prick. I don't care how rich he is and how many teapots and inanimate objects dance and sing for him. Fork out. No more. No more. I know she was held hostage because her daddy sucked. Her dad gave her up and sold her into schmagsual slavery. What? Anyway, oh my God, I'm getting on it. Let me know what you think. Please set notifications so you see this video, because so many of my videos don't even get seen by my subscribers. Comment, please, share, like, support, any of that stuff. That's the only way I can ever grow my page, and especially since we don't let trolls come in here and start business and waste your time for engagement. I don't want engagement like that. So I'd rather have a slow grow than have men in here wasting women's time. Because again, that's all they do to exploit us. They waste our time. I want women to have leisure time. And thank you so much for your support.